Hey everyone, thank you for stopping by. Today I'm going to be talking about UFC 202, specifically Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz. And that is a fight that I honestly cannot believe is about to happen in just a few hours. Now, this fight already happened once. The first time it happened, what I find really interesting is the fact that neither guy trained for the other at all. Before the fight happened, Conor McGregor was training specifically for Rafael dos Anjos, who is also a southpaw, but he presented a much different problem than Nate Diaz. And before the fight, Nate Diaz was God knows where, doing God knows what, and the last thing he was doing was training for Conor McGregor, a very skilled mixed martial arts fighter. So when this fight happened, when both men stepped into that octagon to face one another, they really didn't know much about each other. Conor McGregor didn't know much about Nate Diaz. All he knew was Nate Diaz was a tall, lanky boxer, but he really did not understand Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz, on the other hand, also didn't understand Conor McGregor, but he was just this tough, durable, tenacious boxer, and he went into that fight just like that, which is why the fight played out the way that it did, in my opinion. Now, we've all heard Conor McGregor say it numerous times, over and over again, that in that fight, he underestimated Nate Diaz's ability to last as long as he did. He really thought that he could go out there, hit Nate Diaz with the same shots that he was hitting the featherweights, and he would just drop Nate Diaz and get him out of there. But when he went out there, hit Nate Diaz as hard as he possibly can, and Nate Diaz was still standing there, Conor McGregor blew his wad, and he wasn't able to finish. And in his own words, he was not efficient. He did not use his energy efficiently. Now, what I think that means is when you watch that fight versus Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz, you'll notice two things. One, Conor McGregor was throwing a lot of strikes that, one, used a lot of energy, and two, were not very accurate. One of those strikes is the little capoeira kick that he was throwing. He threw that kick quite a few times against Nate Diaz. Why he felt that kick would land on a much taller opponent, I have no clue, but he used that kick numerous times. That kick was completely ineffective. It did not do anything at all for Conor McGregor. It didn't even really set up any shots for him. And then when you look at Nate Diaz really stuck with the basics. He used his jab, he used his straights, and he used effective clinching. And when the fight got to the ground, of course, we all know how good Nate Diaz is on the ground. So now that both guys have had a chance to face each other, they know what it feels like to fight each other, they'll be doing it again. Conor McGregor has said himself that he really underestimated what it takes to fight a bigger man. And because of that, he has brought in a lot of training partners that will kind of mimic the style that Nate Diaz brings in there, the size, the weight, and the boxing that Nate Diaz brings in there. He has also been training a lot more jiu-jitsu to try to counter Nate Diaz's jiu-jitsu. Nate Diaz, on the other hand, has been doing what Nate Diaz does best. He trains mixed martial arts. He's very good at it. And he is coming into this fight with a full training camp, which means that his conditioning is going to be on point. And we're talking about a guy who already has crazy conditioning. So, when thinking about this second fight, knowing exactly how the first fight ended, Conor McGregor got choked out. He got rocked. He was able to hit Nate Diaz clean a lot of times, but he never really rocked or hurt Nate Diaz. But Nate was able to land a nasty, clean jab straight, rock Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor got very desperate, shot for a takedown. He got reversed, got on top, and choked out. Fight's about to happen again. What can we expect from these two guys? Can we expect anything different? Well, what I think is that what we're going to see in this fight is who is the better student, in the sense that who has learned more from facing each other. Nate Diaz won the fight, but even though he won that fight, it wasn't an easy fight. From the first round, he was getting hit, and it wasn't that difficult for Conor McGregor to hit him. Conor McGregor would throw that left straight over and over again and connect on Nate Diaz. So it wasn't like it was hard to find Nate Diaz. Conor McGregor, on the other hand, found out that it's not that easy to just go out there and drop the bigger man and finish him out there. So this second fight is going to be about who the better student is. Who has learned more from the first fight that they had? Conor McGregor, in my opinion, has a lot more to learn when facing a guy like Nate Diaz. Number one, coming into that fight, he cannot not throw those same shots, those ineffective, high energy shots that he was throwing in the first fight. He needs to stick to what worked for him in the first fight. So let's think about that. What worked for Conor McGregor in their first fight? Well, one, you think about the straight. He was able to land that straight shot almost whenever he felt like it. Over and over and over again, he was able to connect with that shot. So he needs his straight left. The second shot that was effective was the oblique. He was able to land that oblique over and over and over again. And every single time he would land it, you will notice Nate Diaz back up a little bit and reset. That's a very good shot. The third shot that Conor McGregor needs to focus on, in my opinion, is his uppercut. The uppercut was very effective in the first fight. He needs to bring that back. He also has some pretty nice left hooks and right hooks. In my opinion, Conor McGregor needs to completely focus on the boxing basics, which is move your head, keep your hands up, and throw clean, crisp, fast shots. Don't focus too much on power. Focus on accuracy. Focus on landing your shots and not missing too many shots. That way, you have more energy to fight in the later rounds. For Nate Diaz, what did Nate Diaz do well? What strikes worked? Well, Nate Diaz stuck to the basics. His jab was epic in that fight. He was able to land the jab over and over and over and over again on Conor McGregor, and he needs to bring that jab back. Except this time, in my opinion, he needs to feint the jab more than he did in the first fight. If you watch the first fight, the one thing you'll notice is that Conor McGregor was able to counter with that left hand every single time. Not every single time, but most of the time, Nate Diaz would throw a jab. So Nate would throw a jab, Conor McGregor would slip it and come over the top with his left. He did that numerous times. He also slipped and came under with the uppercut. That's something Conor McGregor does very well, and he used that against Nate Diaz in that fight. Nate Diaz needs to feint that jab, draw Conor McGregor in, and land his straight. And that is also kind of the way he rocked Conor McGregor before he was able to finish him. He threw a jab, Conor McGregor was coming under with the uppercut, and Nate Diaz landed a straight that rocked Conor McGregor, backed Conor McGregor up, and Conor McGregor got finished in that fight. So Nate needs to use his jab, he needs to feint it more, he needs to throw it a straight left, and he needs to just keep it very simple and basic. Both guys need to keep it simple and basic, because this fight at the end of the day is going to come down to cardio. It's going to come down to cardio, in my opinion. Both guys are not easy to finish on the feet. If they're both standing, Conor McGregor is not going to be easy to finish, and we all know how good Nate Diaz is on his feet. We know how great his chin is. We know how durable he is. He can take an incredible amount of punishment. This man has been facing 155-pound fighters his whole entire life. He has faced Rory McDonald, for God's sake. He has faced a guy like Benson Henderson. He's a durable guy. Conor McGregor will not be able to just come out there, hit him, and get him out of there. They both need to keep it simple, focus on speed, accuracy, and focus on landing clean shots over and over again. Now, the one thing that Conor has also talked about is the fact that Nate Diaz cuts very easily. This bothers me as a Nate Diaz fan. It really does bother me, because it is possible that if Conor keeps landing that straight left over and over and over again, the ref could say, look, I'm tired of seeing you gushing blood, fight over, and that will be a bad night for everyone except Conor. And Conor has talked about how he's going to keep busting Nate Diaz open over and over again. So Nate needs to do a much better job of avoiding that straight left. He needs to move that head. He needs to feint. He needs to use his footwork. He needs to be a little bit more fleet-footed than he was in the first fight. That way he can avoid that left and avoid having this fight, this potentially amazing fight, stopped due to a cut. Nobody would want to see that. So thinking about these two guys, what they bring to the table, who do you think has learned more from this fight? Conor McGregor has has seemed to me like a man on a mission. Like he's crazy about Nate Diaz right now. All he cares about is defeating Nate Diaz. And I have a lot of respect for Conor McGregor because the man is going back to the same exact weight that he got defeated in. The man is not punking out. He was defeated at 170 pounds. He's fighting the same man who beat him again at 170 pounds. In his mentality, he's like, Nate Diaz was able to beat me. If I am as good as I think I am, I should be able to avenge that loss in that same weight class that I lost in. I respect that a lot. As for Nate Diaz, I also respect that. The man comes in on short notice, destroys Conor McGregor, and now he is back to try to do that again. So who do I think is going to win? Honestly speaking, I don't know. I really don't know. A part of me thinks Conor McGregor is going to find a way to do it. I don't think Conor will be able to finish Nate Diaz. I think if Conor McGregor wins, it's going to be a 5-round, hard-fought decision. I think he's going to outbox Nate Diaz. I know that sounds crazy, Conor McGregor outboxing Nate Diaz, but I think that's what's going to happen. I believe Conor McGregor will be able to find that straight left over and over again. He's going to bust Nate open. He's going to land cleaner shots, a lot more cleaner shot than in the first fight, and he's going to take this fight by decision. If Nate Diaz wins, it's going to be a submission or a TKO. I know that's kind of broad, but that's just the way that I see it. I think if the fight goes to the ground, we all know Conor McGregor is no match for Nate Diaz on the ground. I don't care how hard he's been training for this fight. Nate has been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu his whole entire life. A couple months of hard training in BJJ will not be enough to rival what Nate Diaz brings to the table when it comes to grappling. So, final thoughts. This will be a good fight. In a few hours, we're about to witness an amazing fight between two guys who are freaking gangsters. I don't care the way you look at it. Conor McGregor is a G. Nate Diaz is a freaking gangster. These two guys come to fight every single time, and we are about to witness a war. I'm hoping this goes to 5 full rounds so that I can see which of these guys has been able to learn more from the first fight. But in my opinion, I really believe Conor McGregor gets the job done. I think he comes in and I think he beats Nate Diaz by decision, 5 rounds, outboxing him. If the fight does go to the ground, it will not end well for Mr. McGregor. So there you go. That's my prediction for the fight. Let me know in the comment section who you think wins the fight. Let me know how you think they're going to win the fight. And we'll all be right back here in the morning and see who was right. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a great day and be safe.